Hey, welcome to another edition of 2020'd, and I'm once again doing the intro because Ben 2020'd me into doing it.
Did I ever tell you that hay is for horses and cows?
And it continues.
And it continues.
Yes.
Well, we're not talking to horses or cows. We're talking to a guy who's as strong as a horse. Because this guy, I don't even want to call him a guy. I want to call him a Jedi motherfucker.
Yeah, just like so much energy and like super motivating and organized. I'm just like, oh my, like everything is a perfect soundbite. It's incredible.
And that guy is...
Paulie Calafiore. You've probably seen him on Big Brother. You've probably seen him on X on the Beach. You've probably seen him on MTV's Everything, The Challenge. Like, I don't know. They've interviewed him for... He's Paulie. I got to tell you, I'm ashamed of myself after this interview. And I'll tell you why. Because I sold this guy short. Because, I mean, we're Scorpio bros, so, like, there's no reason why I shouldn't have thought that he was better. Because I talked to him for an hour.
And what does that mean, Ben?
Well, we both have very similar birthdays, so we're Scorpio bros.
All right.
We're Novembers. Yeah, but that said, like, I mean, look, I knew Paulie was smart, and I know that he's very physical and athletically inclined, because if you're friends with him, or excuse me, following him, I follow him, I'm a stalker, on Instagram, you could see the chiseled abs and the arms don't just come from human growth hormone. He actually made that happen himself, but it's because, as if you watch this episode, he writes it all down. He is a giant nugget of introspection. He's deep, he's philosophical, he pushes through the mental barrier before the physical barrier. And I'd like to think that I'm being sarcastic and metaphoric, but I'm not. He literally does that. And if you listen to this, like, at first I wanted to give up. But then after listening to him, I realized that I'm a victim. And now I'm going to go kill myself on behalf of Paulie Calafiore. And by kill myself,
in a good way, I assume.
Like,
3 push-ups instead of 1.
Right. We stay positive on this show. No, but this was like such an impressive interview. And I feel like we definitely
Epstein
dug really deep. Ben, you keep interrupting my
I like it. This episode, Siobhán did a great job of keeping Ben in check, so that was fun.
I tried, but it was so amusing to me because Ben is sitting here like avidly taking notes. It's like all of a sudden he looks down and I see a pencil and paper. I'm like, oh my gosh, Ben is actually taking notes at what he's saying. But honestly, so much amazing
Van
information.
Wilder? He walks around, he says all this genius shit, and he has the dude from Harold and Kumar. He goes, write that down. So I write that down.
I think that anyone watching or listening to this episode is going to want to take notes for sure.
Yeah, no, we got a lot of information that I feel like you just wouldn't. I mean, we really got to know him. I felt like we really got to have some deep conversation that you wouldn't find on MTV or any of the other shows that he's been on.
Well, you mentioned it, MTV, and there's no music in MTV. But like, if in a world of MTV not doing anything, be Paulie Calafiore. This is Benny Goodman, and you're here at 2020, and you're probably wondering why I'm talking quietly. Well, I too, like Paulie, our guest this week.
Except this is a normal volume for everyone else in the world, except for you.
Well, I'm scared of Cara Maria. And unbeknownst to me, Paulie, who's our guest, Paulie Calafiore, here's Paulie. We're going to get into that. He's dating the lovely Cara Maria, but Cara Maria is not lovely when she's reading and in the other room, and you're trying to do a podcast.
When she's not reading in another room. I mean, we got 5 rooms in this house.
So there isn't just one other room. There are multiple. Yeah. Okay.
So, ladies and gentlemen.
She just chooses to read the book right on the top of the steps. She could go into a room.
Have you met women?
See, with me, it's the opposite.
I can't go in any of the rooms because they're right by where you're doing the reading.
Tell Cara she's making our show so much better right now. Like, we really appreciate that. Like, this isn't the producers. Like, people go, is it real on MTV? Is it real?
When you are done reading, you are fucking getting it. All right? So the whips are coming out. The chains are coming out. Your ass is getting tied up and punished. Believe that.
I got to tell you, I'd be scared.
How's that for Elvina?
Just so you know, though, the female lioness is the one that kills.
Anyways,
well, then I guess I'm the lion and lioness in this relationship.
There you go. It's 2020. That's allowed.
So, ladies and gentlemen, since we got 2020 by a guest that's not even on our show, though we love Cara Maria Sorbello, ladies and gentlemen, Paulie Calafiore.
Hey.
Woo,
and of
cheers.
course, as usual, Siobhán Cronin and Cory Peza, who's not just a bass player. He's been getting mad at me for the bass-centric talk.
that's kind of discrimination. There's a lot of bassists out
It's
there.
unbelievable. How dare you?
I don't like drummers either if it makes you feel better.
But he's not just a bass player. That's the point. He has a million other things he does.
Well, that's what every bass player says.
Yeah, well, but that's not always true.
So,
Yes.
Paulie, since we talked to you last, I see you on my Instagram. Like, you're like killing people in the morning, getting them in shape. You're on MTV. I'm watching reruns of Big Brother, and you're like hitting on chicks, and like they're loving you, and then you're like, bye. And then like you're on. By the way, I watched X on the Beach, which is one of my favorite shows in history. Like I said on a previous podcast that we haven't aired yet, that I actually stole cable to watch the show, and I'm like trying to remember you. And then all of a sudden, last night, I'm Googling you, because that's what I do. I'm in my bed by myself, Googling Paulie Calafiore. And your mug comes up, and I realize you're a different type of hot without a beard. And your hair different. You're like a different, you're like Zach Morris versus like Brad Pitt in Legends of the Fall.
You've put some
Yeah,
thought into
dude.
this.
I can't be that way every year. I gotta like give people a break. Gotta grow the hair out. Gotta grow the beard.
Yep.
If I was like that mode all the time, it's dangerous.
Yeah,
like,
right.
People could get pregnant without me even being in the room.
So anyways. So,
Oh my God.
Paulie, you have a website, Awake the Lion?
Awake the Lion.
Awake the Lion.
AwakeTheLion.com.
AwakeTheLion.com. Since we spoke the first time, I've been following you. You're crushing it, man. It's like constant content, and it's stuff that makes me tired just to watch it.
That's why also when you threaten Cara Maria off camera to do things, like I believe you. Because I watch your lion shit, okay? And you're roaring at me at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, Paulie, I don't have the energy for this ever. And then I see all the people you're working with, and they're all beautiful, they're all in shape. Is that what it takes? Are you the common thread for good-looking people on MTV?
I don't want to put that kind of load on me. You know what I mean?
That's what she said.
It is exactly what she said. I was waiting for somebody to slam dunk that. I threw it out there as a layup.
We're Scorpy Bros. We know better. We're Scorpy
Dude, that's
Bros.
it.
It was your. By the way, happy late birthday.
Thanks, man. Happy birthday to you too. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to change the landscape of what it means to be like on reality TV. I feel like these people that go on reality TV, they don't really set forth a plan when they get there. And if I'm being honest, the reasons are because they are chasing fame, and they don't realize that eventually everybody's time runs out, and it's better to be prepared for that moment. And to be able to do things to launch and to capitalize while you have that moment. Life is all about seizing opportunities. So if what I do can inspire other people to do it themselves, great. If they need help, they can come to me, great. But ultimately, I'm here to help good people, and that's it.
There's a huge parallel between that and the music world, like a lot of us know, is some people will get like a big gig, let's say, and they just get settled and totally satisfied. You're like, yeah, this is going to last forever. And then like one day it doesn't, and then it's over and you're just like, now what, So you definitely have to take that time to like, craft your journey. You have to constantly be in control of like developing what's next.
I keep telling my 15-year-old, my fiance has a, I got engaged, guys. My fiance has a 15-year-old.
Cheers.
And I keep saying she hit 10,000 followers on TikTok. And I'm like, that's great. But
Wow.
just wake up one day and remember, if they shut off your TikTok account, it's still going to be okay. Because can you imagine, like, you're 15 years old and then people don't like your stuff, and all of a sudden one day you can't like sign in. This is why there's so young suicide going
Ben,
on.
15 years old? Really? I've seen you panic because you didn't get enough likes on a picture. Or
because I'm a
video.
15-year-old girl. That's exactly my head. That's why I get along with Haley so well. We're like, I like ice cream, I like Harry Potter, I like Vans shoes. We're the same.
So yeah, you scale that up and you kind of get what Paulie has been dealing with and talking about.
Totally.
It's so interesting for me to see so many humans where their only goal is to be like YouTube famous or Instagram famous or TikTok famous. Getting on TV is considering making it. And it just goes to show you that especially throughout this time. I mean, you look at like a lot of artists and a lot of celebrities. You could tell the ones who had a game plan and utilized and leveraged like when they had, their moments, and they put it into certain things. And then you can tell the people who didn't, you know what I mean? Like success, if you fail to plan, then you're planning to fail, basically. So you see all these people, it's like the music industry has been completely changed. Who knows when it's going to go back to normal? The movie industry, the show industry completely changed. Who knows when that's going to go back to normal? And the same thing with everything else. I mean, people who've worked very hard their whole lives are getting things taken away while, like with their businesses going out of business, while these young kids are trying to get like 100,000 followers or 200,000 followers so that they could like, hold some clout over their classmates in school, only to realize like that's not even what life is all about. Like if you get to a certain level in life, they don't give a fuck how many followers you have, Right. So like you could have all the followers in the world. Like what does that mean in the real world?
Yeah, and I was just going to say, I mean, achieving fame doesn't mean you achieved your purpose. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize is you think, oh, yeah, getting famous is my ultimate end goal. But then that's not necessarily enough to sustain you and to feel fulfilled, Yeah.
Do you think that your success in television and getting that fame has shaped that mindset? Or was that something you had even before you got into television?
After doing these shows with people who have been in it for 10 plus years, that mindset does not come from reality TV at all. Like these people think that they're celebrities. They think that they're famous, and they're not. This comes from years of, I got to thank my parents, but also, high level athletics. It exposes who you really are, and it exposes any excuses. You can't, sit there and go back to your parents and be like, well, I didn't make the team because, the players didn't like me. You didn't make the team because in the coach's eyes, you weren't good enough to make the team. You didn't, you didn't fit into whatever vision they had of their team. So you have two options at that point. You either cry about it or you work hard and then you try again. And you continue to go through that process, and like it's all in your control how much you outwork the other people trying to achieve the same goal as you, puts you in that realm, whereas reality TV, it doesn't teach you that. It doesn't teach you those lessons, right? Life eventually teaches you those lessons, right? And a lot of these people, as you see it now, I see all these people who used to be on, who haven't been on in 5-10 years. Like now all of a sudden, because certain shows are becoming big, now it's like, oh wait, now could be my moment where this could change my life. It's like, what were you doing when you were on 10 years ago, when you were on every single season, every single show? You know what I mean? You didn't do anything. You thought you were a rock star. You just went and you partied and you fucking did all this shit, which there's nothing wrong with that. But then, don't look back on what's going on currently and be like, man, I want to try and relive opportunities that I missed out on. It's like, those are few and far between once you get to a certain point.
I totally understand why every girl on the island would go back to your room. I believe everything you say, Paulie. I swear to God. Because you want to know what the awesome part is you are authentic. I was saying this before you came on the show. Like, I love this guy because he's 100% the real deal. Like, you're the guy up at 5 o'clock. I'm like, this wasn't just because the cameras are on. I'm this crazy. And that's what I love about you. And you have like this sage-like wisdom going into this. But, and I understand like how you've been so good at these shows. But it's funny, you're like, it's going to catch up with you. I know, I watch your shows. You're always running away from things. Maybe Cara this time, because she's reading in the other room her book that she got a pre-copy of to her fans, and I understand. I've watched. She's great orator.
She's great orator.
Yes,
does great things with her mouth. Great things.
Oh my gosh.
She'll have to come back on to defend herself.
Talk to you, Cara.
So is this idea, Paulie, this idea of just like always working hard and having an idea of like your long-term trajectory, is that something that your parents taught you? You mentioned that, or is that something that you've kind of always had, that drive, or like where did that come from?
I would say, it's partially how I was raised, but then the rest of it has to be self-taught. The job of parents is to try and set their kids up to be more successful than them. And one day when I have kids, I'm hopefully in a position where I can do the same thing. But also it was something very active for me. I was always constantly looking around, seeing where I wanted to be, what I wanted to be, who I wanted to be. And I almost built this thing inside of me where it became this, like it's instilled deep within my brain and deep within my soul that I have to be the best at whatever I do. And I have to be the best at, of how I do it. So like, I can't just naturally be gifted at whatever it is. I have to be relatable to people who are trying to also get to that point. How do you get from A to B and then from B all the way to Z? When Benny says like he watches videos where I'm up at a certain time in the morning and I'm doing things and I'm doing that, it's because how am I supposed to convince people to do the fucking work that it takes to be great and it takes to be successful if I myself am not doing it? There's so much bullshit out there of these fucking assholes that are great talkers. I'm a great talker. I could be a bullshitter. I could read a fucking success book and then just steal the lines word for word and read it and fucking convince a bunch of dumb motherfuckers to buy in. I mean, it's very easy, especially nowadays. There's a lot of dumb motherfuckers out there. There's a lot of dumb people.
There are.
There seems to be more and more every
2020
day.
has brought out anything. It has brought out the dumb motherfucker. It's the year actually, I believe in the Chinese calendar, it's the year of the dumb motherfucker.
I would agree. And the thing is, it's very easy to sway large groups of people, but how do you convince people to actually want to do the work? Because we also live in a culture right now, and the mindset right now is I don't want to do the work. I want everything fucking handed to me. I don't want to do these things that are going to separate me from the rest. There's been a pandemic going on for an entire fucking year, and I've been working harder and making more money than I ever have. Is I want to separate myself in the wealth gap from everybody else. And I want to separate myself in the success gap from everybody else. And if there's another lockdown, everybody might be complaining, everybody might be crying. I'm gearing up to blow it through the roof even more then and turn things to the next level, because eventually it's going to end. And the people who sat and cried and fucking complained and expected things to be handed to them, they're going to be 10 times worse off than the people who pivoted and fucking grinded and worked while everybody else slept. And that's it.
And what's funny you say that, because it reminds me of a story that Siobhán told on another podcast where she thought she was like pretty decent violinist when she was younger, and then she went to Europe or Russia or something like that, and you started playing, and you're like, oh, I suck. Because here's the thing, in America, we give everyone trophies.
There's more to the story than that.
Yeah, there's more than that. But the point is that in America, we give everyone trophies for participation.
I was just going to say that. It's like such a you're a winner mentality, where parents are like, oh, you're the best, whatever. Those people just don't understand you. And it's like there's no appreciation for like long-term work ethic and like having to really struggle to get to the point. Well, one thing
that you and I have in common with Anne-Marie and my mom, Andrea, is that they both told us how much we suck all the time. So we'd be good. My dad never, ever came in and was like, good job. His idea of a good job was not yelling at me for being terrible. And you want to know what? That totalitarian fear is what made me disciplined. And now when I see like everyone's like, oh, they're going to be upset if you take away their iPhone for a minute. I'm like, I feel like the old man. Like I walked up the street both ways up the hill to get to school by myself. And now like kids, what do you think about this culture? Because I feel like you're the absolute opposite. Like, where you're the all-American guy, your mindset is not, to me, an American mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah, it helps that my family is Italian, so it's like we have that understanding of
relentlessness.
Absolutely, my dad's family is Italian. It's the same, yeah.
But it's also like I have made it a point to culture myself, and when people think of culture, it's like, ooh, I traveled to this country and I enjoy myself. That's not fucking cultured. When I travel to other countries, I want to see how the locals are living. I want to see what it is. So like, yes, I'm Italian, but what I've taken so much from is like Brazilian culture, because they're animals. In a good way, like their passion, what drives them, how they protect, how they work, everything. They're like what the Italians used to be. back in the day.
Scary, and they'll kill you and stab you in your sleep if you say something wrong?
No, but I understand, because there's a lot of Brazilians in Miami, and it's the intensity. There's a really,
the intensity, and like I vibe with those people because those are my people, because I'm very intense, as you can tell. But like this whole participation trophy mindset, this whole telling everybody is great. I mean, it is not only fucking these kids up for life, but I don't know who I have less respect for, the kids or their parents, because now also the cool thing to do is for parents to try and make their kids go viral on shit. So now you got these parents who failed at fucking life, right? Yeah. Trying to vicariously live through their fucking children, making them fucking viral, and then fucking, you know.
Well, yeah, you see these kids some violinist who's 4 years old in Japan, and it's like, you know, that they were like clockwork oranged into sitting there learning how to play Yo-Yo Ma or something like that from their parents from the second they were born, because that's the culture. I'm going to raise, a show dog versus a child.
Well, there's a difference between instilling in your kids at a very young age, working hard in order to be great. There's another thing to be said about trying to make, certain people seem like they're the next coming of whatever it is, right? Like, because I remember as an athlete growing up, up until a certain age, like there were kids who were fucking phenomenal. They were the most skilled players. They were the best in the state. And then all of a sudden puberty hits, and all of a sudden boys turn into men. You get muscle, you get faster, you get all this shit. And all those kids who didn't hit that growth, it's like, I can't imagine what they went through mentally, being the greatest at one point and then becoming the worst at another point. So it's like, you see these kids, these parents, they'll like post their kid like doing fucking tricks in a backyard, or like, these boxer fighter kids at like this little age, like throwing these crazy fucking combos, and you're like, holy shit, it's going to be the next Mayweather, it's going to be this. And then you don't know how these kids are going to evolve and how their brain is going to evolve, because to become great, it's not just about being programmed to be great. It's about being able to innovate and evolve with whatever it is you're doing. So like a soccer player, you could make the most technical soccer player in the world. It doesn't mean they're going to be the greatest soccer player in the world if they don't have a brain that can adapt and evolve to whatever's going on in a game. And that's where I feel like everything's getting lost.
Yeah, super important point, that there's like such a huge mental focus on success, like that what you have to be doing with your brain. And the same thing happens in music too. It's like there's too much focus on the technical aspects. Like it's like athletics, you're just practicing scales all day long, but you're not training your brain and, how to, I don't know, like the mental side of it. It seems like you really put a lot of focus on that.
Yeah, you have to put focus on. I mean, I think music is a perfect example, because I'll watch some of these artists, and I'm just like, wow, with an instrument, they are phenomenal. I mean, but even look at the culture, right? American Idol, The Voice, and all this shit. It's like, you make these people uber famous for a season, and then they're fucking gone. Mm-hmm. Nobody's. You know what I mean? Like a very small percentage of them.
Well, he brings up a good point, because here's something that I always tell people. They're like, why don't you go on The Voice? Why don't you go on American Idol? Because that's where good souls go to die. Because the worst thing that could ever happen is to get on one of those shows and win, and then nothing happens. Like, do you know who the winner of the third season of American Idol was? I don't even know who the runner-up was. All I know is that Adam Lambert, who didn't win, sings with Queen, and he's fucking awesome. Besides that, the thing is that all it is a bunch of regurgitated artists that aren't even making music that people care about now, talking to other people about how there could be good, as opposed to, if you really want to do music, it's like the same thing with sports. You wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and you go and you row on the water when it's fucking freezing, and you do it because you love it and it's ingrained in your head. You don't do it because, like, I'm going to get the chicks, or I'm going to, do anything other than win and be the best. And it's the same thing with music. It's not vindicating like that. So when you get on television, like American Idol, whatever, you get that instant fame. You're like, I've made it. And then when you don't make it, it's the end of the world for a lot of these people, whereas like Cory and I have been told we suck from every single gig from day one, and it's never changed. And I think I'm awesome because, you know what, I built up a thick skin because I know better, because there's never been a camera and no one's ever even cared in the first place.
Well, the point is that you keep working, and going viral or getting one hit of fame. Yeah, you got to keep going. But Paulie, to ask you a question, what are, like, when you're working with people, what are some of the things that you teach them, or like tools, like the intellectual resources that you try to give to people to help them change their lives, or to, increase their performance, or however you help people? Like, what are some of the tools that you offer to them?
I mean, the first hurdle that you have to get over with anybody who's coming to you for a mental aspect of things. I mean, every little thing plays into it. So like diet, exercise and all that. Yes, that's going to have great effects internally and mentally to you. It's going to put you in a better state of mind. But the biggest transition of things mentally that I've run into with all the clients that I work with across the board is switching the mentality from a victim mentality to a dominant mentality, a success mentality. The victim mentality is crippling to the human mind. It's crippling to the human soul. It's crippling to society. The victim mentality of like, instead of people trying to compete of who is the best and who has the best success story, everybody is now trying to compete who could be the biggest victim. Well, when I was in middle school, this happened to me. Oh my God, that is horrible. Oh my God, now look at this person. It's like, it makes me sick.
Well, people come to us and they'll ask us like, how do we do this? Who helped you? And I always tell people, no one is going to help you other than you. Because that's the thing it's like you have to be the voice in your own head, and there's a very thin line, and we say this a lot, between delusion, neurosis, perfection. And one of the questions I have for you is, you're saying to get from point A to point B to point Z. Do you ever get to point Z? Are you ever satisfied? Because I don't know about you, like every single time I hear songs that I write and work on, I don't even want to release them unless I'm like, almost everything I hate. It's funny because I was talking to our drummer Paul Lorenzo the other night, and we were saying that we have more music on my computer not released than we even have out there, because we just are self-hatred. Like and the thing is, we're never satisfied. Even when other people are saying this is good or that's awesome, we're like, but we could do better. And I feel like you have that mindset. And my question is, are you ever like, do you ever sit there and go, I'm satisfied with this, or is it always the next mountain you got to climb?
There's two parts to that. I mean, yes, I'm never satisfied, because when you set goals, before when you reach a certain goal, or even before you reach that goal, you try and make it bigger, right? Because you set a goal and you chase it. I believe that you do need to take times when you do accomplish something, you take a moment to take it in and say, yes, I did this. That is an amazing thing. Take some time to reflect on it, enjoy it, and then get back. So hold on,
let me interrupt there. So there's a big line between self-affirmation and egocentrism. And I know most of the people don't know what egocentrism means. I don't either. I just use it a lot. But like self-affirmation, like, again, appreciating what you've done. Because like there's sometimes like I'll play a guitar line 400 times, and then I'll finally get it right, and Cory's like, that's acceptable, and I'll be like, all right, I did all right, because acceptable by Cory means it's better than I could have ever done normally. But like people that go, oh man, I just did this and I'm awesome, and all, that's very different than I think that what you're referring to. So I want to be very careful in the sense that like you should appreciate if you reach B to Z, but also realize that you need to stay humble and stay hungry.
Right. It's one of those things where, I mean, it's not it is an excitement thing. I mean, one of the quotes that I lived by as an athlete and that I apply to my life is, you never get too excited over a win. You never get too defeated after a loss, because that just keeps you right in that center of like even keel all the time, and like almost robotic. And I don't want to say like emotionless, but yeah, it's pretty fucking emotionless. Like, yeah, if something moves me, I'm going to fucking be moved by it. If something makes me happy, I'm going to laugh. If something makes me sad, I'm going to be sad. So it's not like I don't have emotions. I have emotions. There's a big difference between being emotionless when it comes to operating and having emotions when it comes to people.
Is that something you work at to keep that emotion in control, or is that like just your natural kind of mental state?
Yeah, I mean, it's a mental tactic that like you can teach yourself. You know what I mean? Like, it took a long time for me to. I mean, from the athletic side of things, it was easy, because it was just like, well, this is what the best do, so I just gotta be this way. Mm-hmm. But in life, it's a roller coaster, and at first you let certain things completely swing and sway you and shift you in and out of gear, and the second that you learn, and it comes through discipline, and it comes through a little bit of time, and it comes through going over these things in your head, that you become emotionless because you have to be, right?
Right.
Eventually, if you work hard enough and you get to a certain level, you have to take emotions out of everything, out of every single decision you make. Emotions are taken out of it, right? Like
emotion is the death to logic.
Yeah, it's like I have to make some tough decisions coming up at the end of this month, you know, and it's gonna suck. But what's gonna make it suck more is if I think about it too much, if I start feeling bad, if I start, you know, overthinking it rather than just it is what it is, right? I'm trying to get to a certain point. How am I going to get there? XYZ. This is no longer helping. This needs to go. And I'm sorry.
Sure.
Like that's it. Some people look at that as heartless, but I'm sorry. I would rather be heartless and rich than fucking have a bunch of feelings and poor.
I kind of harped on that point because I think of myself as relatively even keeled. Ben gives me shit for it all the time, but I think for
You're
me,
a bass player. It's kind of part of the deal.
Right. The people I always respected were the people that really had their emotions under control. They were very stoic about the situation, like you said, regardless of whether it was this big event or just, you know, an everyday thing. And so I'm not sure if that's what led me to that path where it was just like, oh, I like the way that person's handling life. You know, they don't seem to get worked up like that person over there. And then I don't know if I subconsciously started to kind of emulate that or if it's something that's more, you know, ingrained. But like you're saying, it's something you can definitely teach yourself by catching yourself if you do lose control of that emotion. Is that something that you work with the people that you're training through your website and the community that you've built?
Yeah, I mean, everybody holds everybody accountable. You know, I even tell them that they have the ability to also hold me accountable. Because when I talk to them, I say, this is the expectation that I have of you. And here's the expectation I have of myself. And if you have an expectation of me, I would like to know that. And that way we all hold each other accountable. I'm not above anybody. I tell them all the time, I said, if you are with me for longer than 2 years, then something went wrong. Because if I can transition you in 3 months, in 6 months, in a year, so that you can now focus on the next step of things and the next way of things, and now you can start helping other people. My main goal is to have my group, build them all up into, you know, up to my image, and then allow them to then grow their own groups. And now they no longer need me, and they only need to come and check in with me and talk to me when it's like, hey, I'm running into this problem. What should I do? And now I have that kind of wisdom to be able to be like, look, I've navigated this problem before. If you remember when you went through this, this is how we handled it. So what do you think you should do? And then go that route. Sure. So that is what I'm trying to do. I mean, I'm really just trying to fucking build a bunch of savages, a bunch of lions, lionesses who are going to stop with this bullshit that's going on. I'm so sick of what's fucking going on now. And the pendulum's going to swing back. And when the pendulum swings back, all these other motherfuckers that want to jump on that train, they're going to be fucking done and they're going to get eaten. And
it's crazy. What I'm getting from what you're saying are two things that I've lived by. I used to work in retail hell, but one thing that my district manager used to do he used to give us these calls in the morning where he would give us these speeches. And he was a total loser, but one thing he would say was totally on point, which is control what you can control, and that's all you can control. Yeah. And the other thing is you can only worry about what you can control. And you can worry about other things, but it's not worth it because you can't do anything about it. And for me, what I'm getting from you is that you are definitely someone that likes to be in control. You communicate very well. You're very introspective, and I think something that I've noticed with a lot of high-level athletes, a lot of high-level musicians, is that you have to be mentally tougher even than you are physically. And you could tell the introspection that you've gone through because the way that you speak about things, it's so clear the perseverance that you have, because anyone knows if you go to a gym and you're trying to do 100 push-ups, like it doesn't matter if there's a camera on, you're like, there's something that has to be in your brain that's telling you to go even past when you think you can't. And knowing that you possibly can is what you seem to have.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Yeah,
it's inspiring.
That job, the job that you have though, I think that's very hard, and I've noticed this in the little teaching that I've done, is just teaching people how they can be accountable for their own progress, you know. And I think that mental game of understanding what you can control. A lot of people think that there are things that are out of their control that actually are in their control, and the hardest job is getting them to transition into that thought process.
Yeah, well, I mean, think about how crazy everybody goes, focusing on the things that they can't control. Like, who the fuck wants to live that way? Like,
Yeah.
it's mind blowing to me, and I don't care which side of the fence that you're on, but it's just mind blowing to me that this fucking year, leading up to an election, people were so fucking crazy, and in a way where it's like, do you really think that whatever the fuck goes on up there can affect you fucking personally? Like, are you fucking nuts? Like, so you think you're poor because of whoever might be running this, like whether it's one side or the other, you think that that's why you're unsuccessful because of
That's
somebody
that victim
else?
mentality.
It is.
Right?
That's got to be a horrible way to live. I mean, to
like-
feel like you're out of control all the time. That somebody else has the reins.
But then the shaming and all that shit of everybody, because both sides do it. So like, I don't give a fuck which side you say you're on. Like both sides do it.
Well,
to a
both
certain
sides
degree.
are wrong in so many different ways. Like there's a left side, there's a right side, and then there's a right side. And by right I mean like neither of those sides. There's somewhere in between. And it's called logic. And remember how you said emotion's the death to logic? Well, there's so many people pandering to fear and anger, and they're living this meme culture where everything that you learn is because of some fact that someone made up or took out of context and put it there. Out of context, and you're like, oh yeah, this is what's happening in China. It's a picture of Vietnam, and you're like, people don't know. And really, what it comes down to is that you need to be mentally strong. You need to think for yourself. And all that this year has done is become divisive because of what's going on. You're seeing it's just like if you go to an esthetician and get a facial, all the toxins come to the surface. All the racism and hatred and all that we've just allowed in this culture this last year for people to just be like, you know what? I've hated these people for years, and now it's cool. I can say it because it's 2020.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll change gears.
Oh, you're gonna edit me out now,
Paulie, how do we fix America?
Here's Paulie.
Look, man, I think it is true. There is a large group of people who kind of are right in this like middle space, and they think logically, right? And I think that large group of people is being forced to kind of like, come to that idea that like what the way forward is. It's like, leave the fucking radicals over here, leave the fucking radicals over there. Good luck, you crazy motherfuckers. We're all going to come together here. And the time is right now to do it because, the election is essentially done. And now's the time to
You're
start.
literally cursing us. You're cursing our whole
Ben,
country.
let him finish talking. Oh my God.
Whatever the outcome of this election is, whether Biden is the winner or whether Trump becomes the winner due to some loopholes in the Constitution and whatnot, now that large group needs to wake the fuck up and set in motion the things that need to happen to unite the country, because it is not going to come from the power struggle between the Republicans and the Democrats. There needs to be a third party that is strong enough, not the fucking libertarians who keep shouting like they want to be heard, right? But it needs to be something
the Lion
similar
Party.
to that.
The Bull Moose Party.
It can be something where everybody comes together and agrees. And I think it needs to start at the ground level, the same way that when this country was formed,
and we
started
all
at the ground
agree
level.
You got to fight for your right to party.
Why did you interrupt his thought process for that?
Oh God!
Oh,
that's my job is to derail you. Sorry.
That's what I feel like needs to happen. When we were at a point in this country's earliest development when the government got too out of control, who was governing us, which happened to be England. Everybody met by candlelight. They plotted. They planned. They stayed secret. That's where like Freemasonry and all that stuff came to be. And that was the people who became the pioneers to developing this country into what it originated as. And then like anything else, once it's known about and once more people know about it, that is how it becomes infiltrated. So anything that allowed this country to be safe was infiltrated hundreds of years ago. And because people want power. That is what people want. So there needs to be a reset button. There needs to be a resurgence. There needs to be more people meeting by candlelight. Leave your phones at home so that nothing's getting fucking picked up. Talk and find the similarities with people. Stop trying to find the differences within everybody. Stop fucking bringing up shit from 100 years ago, 200, 400 years ago, and scream about why that's so fucking unfair now. Let's talk about solutions to make sure it never happens again. Because shouting both ways and creating this separation is only going to lead to one thing. It's only going to lead to a power struggle that is going to cause one side to try and wipe out the other side completely. And if people don't wake up and realize that we need to stop that, and we need to tell the fucking radical people to shut the fuck up on both sides, and let logic take over, we are going to fall into a point of no return. And that is not what this country was built on. That is not what this country is. This country is a place for fucking the weak and the downtrodden to come to. It is a place where you can come here from another country and you can become a millionaire. You can live the American dream. There's nothing stopping you from becoming successful. And the fact that we're operating on fear, and most people don't realize that the two things that will make a human react is the sense of fear or the sense to protect. Those are the major two factors psychologically that will cause a human to do something. If you tell me that you're going to kill my family if I don't do something, if I can't defend myself or my family, I'm going to be afraid and I'm going to comply to what you're asking me to do. But if I can defend my family, then I'm going to tell you go fuck yourself, and I'm going to prepare myself to protect my family. So those two key drivers is what is driving massive amounts of this country right now. Fear is controlling a certain group, and the sense of protect is controlling the other group. And I'm not saying it's one side or the other. I'm saying on both sides, fear is driving certain individuals and the sense to protect is driving certain individuals. And that is being manipulated by people way higher up than us. And I even see it at levels where I'm at. So the fact that I can see it where I'm at in the levels and experiences that I've had, for people to be so idiotic to think that at the higher levels it can't be done, they're really selling themselves short.
Paul, you're so inspiring that Ben is taking notes. I'm just looking at him pulling out his pencil and fucking paper, and he's sitting here writing down everything you're saying.
Well, I did actually write down some stuff, and it made me think to myself that, like, what am I taking from this? Because the thing that I really like about Paulie is, like, you know, you see his beautiful face on the first season of, you know, X on the Beach. You're like, I don't know about this guy. Like, is he just like a Chad? You know what I mean? Now he's talking about Freemasonry. I'm like, all right. And then what I got as a subtext of what he just said is that absolute power corrupts absolutely. And like dude, you literally just gave me, like, every sentence was a bullet point. It was a different thought, and it was a complete thought. And I'm enjoying your thought process, and I can understand why you're at first off, your peak physical shape, why you're able to deal with being on MTV and dealing with the psychological. Because here's the thing, and you know, you could probably speak to this. Like, I got asked to be on a stupid show one time, and they gave me all the tests, you know, you're supposed to take. And they're basically like, hey, if we edit you so you basically hate yourself and then kill yourself, we're not held liable. We can make you look however we want. Like, they own you. And it's like such a psychological onslaught. And meanwhile, you're thriving on this. Like, can you speak to that as far as, like, being on TV? You're on a show like Big Brother where you don't even have any personal space or time to yourself it's like literally a torture for some people. You know what I mean? And you're like thriving on it, owning it.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just the same thing. And to put a bow on what I just said, it's like, and what you kind of bullet pointed out for me, it's like, if I have a problem with something, I'm not going to just cry about it. I'm going to actually have thoughts on a solution of something, so that if somebody asks a question, how do we solve this? Well, if you're like, I don't fucking know, it's like, well, then why the fuck are you mad? And that's all I hear.
Victim mentality that you've been saying.
People are just mad about things. They're victims. They're fucking, and there's no solutions being spoken about. It's just, this is happening. Okay, cool.
Or you blame the other person. You just
a lot of people stuck in their comfort zones. I mean, that's why you're such a great communicator, because I feel like people that really push themselves outside of their comfort zone, they're able to relate so much easier to other people and understand and be able to communicate better.
Yeah, I mean, you have to listen to people. I mean, that's even that at the basic level of sales, that's sales 101. Like, a good salesperson versus a shitty salesperson is, I listen to all the things that you say you're struggling with, and then I just go down my sales pitch. That's a shitty salesperson. A good salesperson is able to actively listen and then repeat back to you basically exactly what you just said, only in their own words.
Did you work at Best Buy?
No.
What? No, because here's the thing: is I actually used to write.
Ben, let him
no, I'm
finish.
saying I used to write technical writing for companies, and that's a lot of companies. That's the culture, and you're literally like writing out the book. I don't know if it's Best Buy. What retail store did you work for?
I worked for Indeed.com, and they just had a very great sales program.
That's
and
awesome.
I read a lot of books. So, there's that. But, like, the mentality, to answer your question, Benny, about the reality shows, is just like, look, man, like, people are going to judge you no matter what. And I look at it as, like, when I was an athlete, when you go to opposing teams' home field to play them, you're just going to get fucking ripped apart and torn to shreds all game long by every fucking fan there. And every section, you can't escape it, has one person gathering the whole group in that section to fucking come at you or come at one of your teammates and do all this shit, right? So how do you stay even keeled in that game, to keep your teammates even keeled in that game, to pull out a victory on the road with every possible distraction going on? That's how I look at this, where it's like, I go there, I don't give a fuck who's there, what's there, what happens. I do what I do. I say what I say. The edit is the edit. I can live with whatever edit there is, because at the end of the day, who's judging me? A bunch of people who don't know me. And if you're not paying my bills, if you're not making me money, why am I going to focus on you when I can focus on the people that I'm helping and the people that make me money? So it goes back to the controllables that you say. Like, I'm never going to control the people who don't like me, and I don't care to. Because if I'm focusing on trying to get everybody to like me, well, then I really can't be myself, and I can't do the things that are going to make me successful, because everybody's going to have a fucking opinion. And then I'm going to try and cater to every fucking opinion. Whereas
spoken like a true DJ.
If I set the groundwork and I'm like, this is who I am, you follow me because you like this, and if you don't like it, fuck off. That's simple. There's an unfollow
That's the
button.
new shirt for 2020. Don't like it, fuck off.
No, but that's a super important point, because no matter what it is, whether it's music, athletics, anything, if you spend your life catering to what you think people want to see, it's just going to be like a flavor of the week. It's not sustainable. You're just constantly having to rotate to what somebody else wants, and it just doesn't
work. It's like a fucking rock band isn't going to try and make pop music.
Exactly.
Like Papa Roach isn't going to try and make a fucking Ariana Grande
Don't
song.
test
They might
Siobhán.
try,
She
but-
might actually do that.
No, but he's right though. I mean, that's the thing, is you're going to be most authentic sticking to what you believe in most strongly. I mean, if you try to do something that someone else wants more than you, it's not going to work long term.
Actually, I shouldn't say that, because as an artist, maybe you can bridge the gap. But what I meant is,
well, you can always transition.
I have a question for you, Siobhán.
The point I'm trying to say is, Papa Roach isn't going to sit there and be like, how do we break into Ariana Grande's demographic of teeny boppers?
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, I have a very important question, because you follow my logic here. So Chicago, great band, really great band. It was a horn section based band. They were very like funky and out there and progressive. And then there was David Foster. And Chicago had been known for all this progressive stuff, like crazy horns and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden he comes in and writes them a song like "You're My Inspiration," which, by the way, is a song that I used to get up to in the morning at like 3 o'clock in the morning when I had to like open a retail store and psych myself up without cocaine. And I'd listen to "You're My Inspiration" and it'd get me like on all the speakers as loud as possible just to piss off everybody. But I found out that the guys in Chicago hated this, because if you listen to that song, the two horn guys are playing keyboards in the video.
Yeah.
And they basically said that ruined our lives until we got the record, the money from the record, and realized we had gone like number one. And to this day, they're like, we don't know. And it actually caused the band, the lead singer, to go do a solo project and make even more singles. And now the band's still divided with that guy, but they still speak about it like David Foster came in and ruined us and also made us millions of dollars.
Right.
Well, I mean, it just depends on what you value most. I mean, if you can be happy making millions of dollars and that means doing something you don't like as much, then that's you. You know,
Paul
I mean,
is a capitalist, and I've learned that from this call. Like, and I really appreciate that, because you want to know what? Like, and Jason Leckberg, who was on one of our other episodes, and Paulie, I'm sure you can agree with this. He says every millionaire he knows has 7 forms of income, and that's something that I like about you. At least 7 forms of income, because I literally see you and Cara all the time, like doing all different things, different products. Cara's reading on her Instagram, as we could hear in the other room. Like, you're, again, doing your motivational speaking and training. And like, obviously in this mindset, you guys have television shows. I think Cara's doing a movie now or something. Like, you guys make me tired. And I appreciate that, because you want to know what? I'm so used to watching people be lazy that to see people that are actually persevering, especially when people have this stigma. Me, I hate MTV because it's the M in MTV is supposed to be music, and instead I get you. Except that I love your show. I love your show, but that's the thing. It's like, so to hear you speak so diametric to what it takes to be a great musician is just very disconcerting comparatively of how I would have thought you would be, which shows how shallow I am and how shallow our culture is. Because holy shit, man, like, I did not give you credit watching you on X on the Beach. Other than you were like the guy that, like, you're smooth. If I had your arms and your face, I'd get those girls too. I would. It's true.
Yeah, man, they don't show that. It's the conversation.
So you mentioned, you're doing a ton of stuff, and then you said 2020 has been like, you're crushing it this year. You're doing better than you ever have before. For someone who's doing so much and working at such a high level, how do you define your time and manage your time to make sure that you're able to keep up with everything you have going on?
You got to do time blocks. So
yeah,
every single day of mine is a time block, where I know every single day I'm only going to give X amount of time to each thing. And if I don't get accomplished what I need to do for that thing, it has to go to the next day. Every single day, I make a power list the night before.
That sounds
study
awesome.
the power list. I engrave it in
Hold
my
on,
head.
can we just stop 1 second? People, this is very important, because one thing I admired about Siobhán when I first went to her apartment was she wrote down how she wanted every day to be, like, spend time meditating, spend time practicing. And people don't realize, and I'm doing it right now, write it down. If you write it down,
I love that you asked this question, because this I want to hear.
50%
Yeah.
more likely to do it. And the fact that you are telling me that you're writing it down, like, it shows, like, it's such an inherent thing in people that are successful, that have that perseverance. They write it down and they envision ahead of time what it's going to be.
But then you have to apply action, because I mean, like, I just got done ripping somebody a couple nights ago because, they tried to give me the whole bullshit of energy and manifestation and all that stuff. And while I believe in energy and I believe in manifestation, I am so sick and tired of these Gen Z fucking idiots and these hippie motherfuckers who are like, I believe in the third eye, and Mercury's in retrograde, and I need to accept
Or
this
you're
and
just
do this.
crazy.
I think you're
like-
singing Starset lyrics.
Well, it's just like
Probably.
It's like I specifically asked this person. I said, "Okay, so you believe in energy and manifestation. What have you manifested recently?" And instead of giving me a fucking answer, this person went into a sob story about their fucking life, and I stopped them. And everybody in the room thought I was an asshole, and I was like, "I'm so sorry." I said, "But I asked you specifically, what did you manifest? I don't give a fuck about your sob story in life. Everybody's got a fucking sob story in life." And this is what these people don't realize. And all these energy people, the reason why I laugh at them is because I know a lot of them, and most of them live out of their fucking cars, right? So this manifestation of, like, that wealth is just going to drop on your fucking lap and success is just going to drop on your lap, it's bullshit. Manifestation exists 100%. Visualization exists 100%. Energy can be created. You can be in control of your own energy. You can control the energy of a room. You can put things into the universe and make them formulate. But all of that without any calculated applied action to it is just, that's it. Like, you could build the fastest fucking race car in the world. Somebody has to be able to drive that motherfucker and push the pedal to the ground. Otherwise, that thing is just the fastest race car in the world that will never be known as the fastest race car in the world. So the
Hold
power
on. This is your best saying you said so far. Energy without calculation. That's it. And I swear to God, that should be
without
something you
calculated
say.
action.
Without calculated action. Sorry. I'm a stoner. What do you want from me? I'm a hippie you're making fun of. But the point is, I wrote
I'm
that
writing it
down
down
because
too.
I love that. Like, that's an epiphany moment, like a wow. We used to call this in retail when you have a wow experience. Because the thing is, that's a very, very acute linear, decisive thing to say as far as energy without like calculated thought. It's pointless. You're right. That's it. Like you're just blowing off steam, literally.
It's
as
one
opposed
part of the
to,
equation.
Yeah, it's only one.
Yeah.
So not, just to go back real quick. So you mentioned your power list, and we got off the rails a little bit. But can you give an example of like what would be on a power list? Like what do you put on this list?
So a week before every quarter and 2 months before every year, I map out what the entire year looks like, and I map out what the entire quarter looks like. And then a week before each quarter, because then it's like this, that's when I go into specific detail of what that quarter is going to look like. But then before every week starts, I go into detail of what that week is going to do. So on a Sunday, I say, what is this Monday through Friday going to look like? Mm-hmm. And then day to day, I make specific tasks for each day. And every single day, it's like a game of, can I cross out everything on this list? Specifically, right? I know what times I'm going to be away for my workouts. I know what times I need to set aside for like eating and all the stuff that can sustain me working out. But then the actions and everything, like the only reason why I was able to do this tonight is because I'm like, look, once 7 o'clock comes, once 7 o'clock my time comes, I'm done. And unfortunately, like the reason why I was 10 minutes late to this is because I got completely lost in trying to finish that power list because I have OCD. I have to finish shit. I'm like that fucking guy from The Accountant, only without his severity of his tics and everything, where it's like, I have to finish things. I have to do it. So like I map out my board. I have my list on my phone. I wake up every morning. I look at my list, after I've visualized it in my head the night before of how it's going to get executed. And then I wake up in the morning and I just cross things off the list as fast as possible. And if something comes like a distraction or a phone call and it's not on the list, it gets put off until I have a window to go back to it. So I don't care if I'm in the middle of typing something up and somebody fucking calls me. I'm not answering the phone.
Yeah, I totally understand that way of working.
And if I have a certain window, then I'll call you back.
Dude, you realize you're like the first-hand data that you go and try to do like a report and you look at 16 different things that every single thing I've written down could be like the main, it could be the starting sentence for anything. Because one thing, appropriation of time, making sure you sustain yourself. One thing, you have an obsessive need to do it. I love it because Nike says just do it, and a lot of people don't get it, and they say just do it, but they don't get it. But you have an obsessive need to just do it, and that's because you appropriate time for distraction. So if someone calls you, you say, you know what, I'll handle that later. So you appropriate time for that later, but you don't let it distract you because your main objective is to cross off the fucking list. Mm-hmm. I love it too.
I love that. And I have Benny probably remembers, I have a million of these notebooks and I
everywhere.
Literally live on
I read them
things.
all. I love your diary. It's the
like
best.
Every year I've
streaming.
got my yearbook and I've got my day book and I've got my accomplished list of what I have to do in a certain amount of time. So I totally love that you live that way. That's very inspiring.
Do you bring your teachers apples?
No, not anymore. But let me ask real quick on your list, when you make these goals, are they mostly professionally oriented goals or is it personal stuff too?
They're everything related. Health related. That's just a lifestyle. So it's whatever I'm training for, that is what I commit myself to, and that becomes second nature. So that the more you can remove things from the list because it's second nature, the better you are. So it's as a soccer player, I learned how to control the ball with every single part of my body. To the point where I never had to think about it at all. If a pass was coming to me, I didn't have a thought process of, oh shit, it's coming at this speed, at this angle, it's going to be the outside of the foot. It was just in motion, boom, gone. Wrestling, understanding body movement so much where it's I wouldn't be sitting there and be like, man, why would this guy be tapping my head like this? Oh, he's about to shoot. It was just second nature. I was able to feel his energy before any of that happened. So the goals, I tell anybody that I coach, I say, set 4 lofty goals every single year and then work to accomplish those 4 lofty goals every single year as if this was the last year you were going to be alive. And when you put it in that mindset, you never get tired. But I will say that there are moments where you do need to stop, because it is like a car. You cannot get in a car and hit the gas and go 100 miles an hour forever. Eventually you will need gas. Eventually the car will break down if you don't take the foot off the pedal, right? So I factor in certain moments and certain months where you like, if things aren't going right, you just have to let them go wrong and roll with it and take that time to not drive yourself insane. And you just need to understand that this is a cyclical thing. And once you pump out of it, you're going to be 10 times more efficient. But if you burn yourself out in a time where you're never going to operate at higher than a C+ level, then when you have the ability to operate past an A+ level, you're only going to operate at an A- level or a B+ level. So by setting those 4 lofty goals, you grind it, and then you set in that year moments where once you feel a certain way, you're going to go down. But on the month to month, that's how you set attainable goals. If your goal is $1 million a year, then you know how much you need to make in the year. So if your first month only has like 20,000, well, next month you need to be like, I got to get 30,000 this month. Then the month after that, you need to be like, maybe let me try and get 50,000 this month. And then if the month after that you only make 15,000, you shouldn't be sitting there being like, let me make 75,000 to offset that. You should be like, shit, I made 15,000 this month. All right, let me make 25,000 that month. And then you reset yourself, slow, achievable things. So that way you go, and then at the end of the year, you're like, holy shit, I was so close to these big ass lofty goals. I'll definitely hit them next year. So now it's time for me to set bigger, loftier goals for next year.
So I just wrote down some stuff. I'm sorry, because I'm so excited by some of the things you're saying, because one thing that I learned, there's this speaker, this guy, Marcus Buckingham, and he used to always say to leverage your strengths, because your weaknesses, the best the best you can get to is neutral. So that you shouldn't waste your time. Like if you suck at being a mechanic, don't try to fix your own car. If you're awesome at a guitar, go do that. But one thing that you said that I really totally think is so important, you said commit yourself until it's second nature, and remove, and I added this myself, that capacity from the list. And one thing I talk about is automating your brain. So when you first learn something, like when you're first learning to drive, you have to think about the gas, and you have to think about the brake, and you're using your cerebrum. And then when it becomes second nature, it moves in your brain. It actually moves to a different part of your brain, the basal ganglia. So like when Siobhán plays violin, she's not thinking about like, oh, am I going to hold it this way? It's just so second nature. But I was thinking to myself the parallels about what it takes to succeed in what we do, to removing those things from the list, because it's not like she has to think every day, how do I keep my hand in first position? That doesn't need to be on her list, because she's removed that from the list years ago by putting 10,000 hours in. And it's very, very interesting, because you also say, no complacency. So like, people are watching Cobra Kai, they're saying no mercy, excuse me. I say no complacency. And I really, really love that, because there are so many people that are complacent, and you need to reset yourself. And I really think that it's so important for people to realize that what you said, as far as learning and creating capacities within yourself, so they're not even on your list, so that you can focus on further goals, is how you get to where you are. Because a lot of people go, how do you get there? How do you get to 2 billion streams with a band like Starset? And this is how you do it. You write down lists, and you say, this is point A, this is point B, this is point C, and you linearly do it, and you set achievable goals, slow goals, but goals that are consistent, that you, every day, you leverage your strengths. That's what I got.
Nailed it.
No, I'm saying this is brilliant, dude. Like literally, if I only knew this before, like I started dating my fiance, like we'd probably get along so much better.
A lot. I totally agree, though. I think so much of it is organization, because when I was younger, I would have I would form these huge goals in my head, and then I'd get stressed out about the fact that I couldn't break it down into something that I could do on a daily basis. And now that I've gotten a lot more organized, you find that it's a lot more achievable if you're just consistent and you stick to your plan and you have like long-term goals, short-term goals, you have a way of breaking it down into some organizational structure.
Is this biology?
No. But that's amazing. It's amazing how you say it.
The knowledge bombs are dropping left and right.
Yeah.
So I look at that as like, that's theory. That's like the ideas
That's
behind
strategy.
what you're doing. What practical things or what real world things are you doing right now that you're using this mentality you have?
The goals that I set for myself this year were Olympic team, elite athlete with first form, $1 million, 3 houses. So
It's good
on
goals.
the Olympic side of things, right? Completely transformed my body. That's an everyday commitment, right? I have to wake up, I have to train, then throughout the day
Is this
while I'm
known?
working,
Hold
I
on,
have to
just
set.
quick. Is this known by people at this point? Do people know what's going on? Because we haven't talked about it.
No, it's known.
Okay,
Yeah, it's known.
So,
You
ladies
know.
and gentlemen, Paulie, the philosopher, apparently is also in the fucking Olympics on behalf of the United Goddamn States of America. Can you talk about it? Because this is crazy.
Just I mean, it's a long way to go. I mean, you still every single season you have to prove yourself. So, but the thing is, it's like when given that opportunity, I was 150 pounds. I was fast, but the requirements were for me to be 200 pounds and to be able to lift weights that were like double my body weight, basically. And squats and power cleans and still be able to be fast. So just like the level of commitment that it takes to every day be like, I need to commit 2 hours of training in the morning, and then 2 hours throughout the day to mobility, flexibility, to make sure that I'm good, and the diet in itself that it takes to add that kind of weight, add that kind of strength, and all the technique that goes into reteaching yourself how to sprint at a different weight, getting fast twitch muscles to go, like that is something within itself. And it's still, there's still obstacles and complications. I mean, with everything going on with coronavirus, it sucks for like a new person like me, because certain laws that happened in New York has disallowed me to be able to be around, the veteran people for safety reasons and for reasons of that. So this season is kind of a wash for all of the fucking USA, so to speak. These other countries, they got their shit together, but ours, we're restricted due to a lot of things that are going on that are out of our control. So from an athlete standpoint and from, the coaches and everything, like everybody's just kind of frustrated because our hands are tied on a lot of things. So with that being said, it's like we talk about pivoting all the time. So what could I be doing now? Well, I still can be teaching myself and working with certain coaches and working with certain people remotely to be doing this, because once January comes, I'm going to be expected to be able to hang with the vet guys on the ice.
You want to talk about? Can you just give some context to exactly what you're training for?
Yeah, training for the bobsled for the Winter Olympics in 2022. So it's one of those things where it's like you're faced with something. You could either have an excuse, and I could either sit there and be like, "Fuck, man, like, am I going to be behind? Like, these guys are getting, reps. I'm kind of getting locked out right now because, it's like I worked hard. I did the combine. I reported to Lake Placid. I was there. I got to be on the track. I got to do all these things. I got to do this." And then certain, laws and rules get passed, and that's it. Like, it's like, hey, sorry, it's out of our fucking control. Wait until January, And as an athlete, I got to sit there and be like, all right, I've been here before. Well, where have I been there before? Well, I've been a freshman before. I've been a rookie before. I understand what it takes to break into the lineup. And that is something that, like, if you're working on it and you're once again, if you're not prepared for the opportunity, if I was sulking this whole time, by the time January came, I would not be as strong. I would not be as fast. I would have no concept of technique. But instead, I've been putting 6 hours every single day into it, on top of running all the online businesses and all that stuff, right? Second goal, first form elite athlete, right? So I'm already a first form athlete, but I want to be an elite athlete with them. I want the big time contracts. In order to do that, it doesn't go based off of your following. It goes based off of how knowledgeable are you in the fitness world? How many lives are you changing? Do you fit the message and brand of first form, right? And that in itself takes 2 to 3 hours every single day to make sure that I'm talking about them, I'm helping people, and that has now taken notice. You know what I mean? So like the end of this month and next month, they're going to announce their final 2 people, and I'm in a good spot to make that, because that was the second of my lofty goals. And the thing is, if for any reason I'm not chosen, that doesn't mean that I'm over. I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing this whole year, because clearly I've been noticed for that role. So if I don't get it this year, well then what tweaks am I going to make next year in order to make it, right? So how am I going to prepare for this? And people always wait until something happens to prepare for it, rather than just staying consistent.
No, but that was a super important point of just staying consistent, even when there isn't necessarily a motivating factor for it. Yeah,
it's consistent, right? Like if I stopped what I was doing this whole year to get me in a position to possibly be an elite athlete, and just sat back and was like, "Well, I'm going to be picked." Well, then they would probably look at that and be like, "Look at this motherfucker!" Like thinking that he got it. Like fuck him.
Yeah.
We're going to give it to these people instead. Show us for another year that you deserve it. You know what I mean? And that's life. But if I just remain consistent the whole time, whether I get it or whether I don't, I'm eventually going to get it. And it's the same thing, with training for the Olympics. It's like, there's nothing I can do about the coronavirus right now. Nothing I can fucking do about the restrictions. But what I can do is I can be in control of myself. I can keep getting stronger, keep getting faster, learning techniques from pilots, from brakemen, from coaches. I can study tape online. I can watch cool runnings, and I can fucking.
That's how I study.
And I can be ready so that when January comes, the coaches aren't like.
Did you hear that word, hon? That's what we always say, and you said it. Be ready. That's the most important thing that you just said. And one of the things, and listen, I usually try to interject with people because like I want to derail a conversation, which I do anyway, but I want to make things funny, or I think I am funny. And like all I've extrapolated from this is that you literally are, first off, have a very philosophical mindset. You are a doer, that really what it takes is a crazy amount of drive, but with that drive, it's a commitment. And for you, you're going to be ready. So you're like, you know what? Like, if I'm not ready now, I'll make sure I'm ready then. And not giving up and not having that complacency and not even, and being braced that if you aren't that, if you don't get it, that you already know that that's just part of what it takes to get to the next level. And that, like, you're right, it's life. And instead of saying that victim mentality, oh, fuck, I worked so hard, they thought about me, they picked me out, they had me do this, COVID happened, I didn't get on the team. You're like, fuck it, dude, I'll make sure I'm Jedi for next year. And I think that is such a wonderful thing to take from this, as far as the reason that you're so successful and why all the women love you. And it explains why Cara Marie is with you, because, man, that woman is a very tough cookie. So I was like, man, this guy better have his ducks in a row. And I would say, sir, Paulie, you have your ducks all in a row.
I appreciate that, man. Life's a marathon. You know what I mean? So you got to see the vision. Like if I cried over all this stuff, like game time is August of 2021. That's when it really matters. The coaches for any sport do not give a fuck. You could be the starting quarterback coming into a preseason. If the fucking second string guy is outworking you and outperforming you and fucking hitting all those things, yeah, there's a little sway with how much you're getting paid, which might let you get the first couple games. But if you're sucking, you're out. So it doesn't matter. Like if you could be on a team, you could be off a team. The only thing that matters is come August, who are the best pushers? Those are the people who are making the Olympic team. That's it. It doesn't matter what happens this season right now. It doesn't matter what happens in the season January through March. It matters when everybody shows up in August, everybody puts their numbers there in front of everybody, and then everybody pushes individually right there, and then the best fucking pushers get picked, and then the best fucking teams make it. That is life in a nutshell, right?
I just want to say that, like, so first off, apply action. The pushers individually push, and then the pushers that push the most get picked, and the best of those that get picked that keep pushing win.
You're just picking random words out of what's happened in the last time.
Ben's he's gonna be sitting under his covers at night with a flashlight reading this list.
This like crazy Kaiser Sose like thing on the wall and study it, because I gotta tell you, I was not prepared for this level of deep thinking, and I gotta tell you, I absolutely admire you, and I'm so happy I'm your Scorpio bro.
Well, I really appreciate how highly specific you are with your goals, and even like getting to your third and fourth goals that are financial goals that a lot of people maybe don't want to talk about, because it's maybe taboo, whatever. I think that's really important that you're specific about that too.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people will say, this year I want to be rich, or I want to have all this, and it's not.
What does that mean?
Not laid out.
What does that mean?
Well, I came pretty fucking close, so I can't be too upset about it. So it's one of those things where I'm like, damn, all right, well, if I'm looking at the projections for this month and next month, I'm like, I won't hit it, but I'll be like, all right, I'll fucking definitely hit it next year. You know what I mean? And that's an exciting thing, because then the shit that I got planned for next year with that kind of, shit going on only like adds value to it. And then it's like, damn, well, if I could blow through that, next year because of how I set myself up to finish this year, well, damn, what's going to happen after that? What's my next goal going to be? Is it
I can tell you what your next goal should be. To win on Mount Midoriyama in American Ninja Warrior, because I feel like you could go all the fucking way for the United States. Fuck all the cool running shit. Just go to Mount Midoriyama and show up the world, because they'll be like, this is Paulie Calafiore. He's on MTV. And all the fuckers like me are like, he's the reason there's no music on that show. And then meanwhile, you make America proud. And they're like, oh yeah, he practices 6 hours a day. 7 days a week. That's 35 hours if you guys can't count because you're a guitar player or a bass player. And that's what it takes. The 10,000 hours. And you kept using a word that I really, really, really like. Elite. You say, it's not that you want to get to this level. Like, I don't want to be the varsity team. I want to be an elite athlete. You're not fine below that. You want to be the next level. And I got to tell you, man, I want to go practice some guitar, because there's nothing I'm going to do. I've been doing like push-ups every day, and my girlfriend's like, you have such good abs and shit. Like, I wanted to give up. I wanted to give up when I saw your Instagram, because I'm like, never is that going to happen. But now I realize I'm playing the victim.
Dude, don't be the victim, man. Be elite. But anyway, it's getting close to my bedtime.
Yes.
Thank you for sticking around with us.
In order to be efficient, you got to get to bed early, and you got to wake up early.
Well, we don't want to be a distraction from your goal. So thank you so much for getting 2020 with us. Paulie,
thank you so much. What an amazing episode.
AwakeTheLion.com.
Preach, you guys. Thank you. Thanks
Thank you so much for spending time with us.
Take it easy, man.